Hello and welcome to my series, The Pain and Pleasure of Living a Life on Purpose. My name is Philippa Ross and I'm your personal guide to help you explore and find the treasures of value in yourself so you can go out and make a difference to the world. And one lady who has made a huge difference to herself and the world around her is Emily Gowor, who is, in one word, inspirational. She's an author, a speaker, and has just recently launched the Institute of Inspiration. But by Jove, she has been on a journey, a journey of pain that has brought her to this point of pleasure. Hello, Emily. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So now I wish you were Emily lives in Brisbane, so it's such a shame she's not around the corner. I actually met her a couple of years ago now, wasn't it, when you did the Inspiration Bible?
Yes.
Yeah, perhaps you'd like to let the listeners hear about the Inspirational Bible and the inspiration behind it.
Can do that. So this is obviously how you and I connected, I think. I don't know if it was the first time we connected, but the Inspiration Bible was kind of a brainchild of mine, where I had this, one of my marketer actually said to me back in 2013, what do you want to do next? What's your next project? And I said, well, I'd like to unite inspiring stories and people and their journeys, because, one of the things I find really inspiring is when someone has overcome, if you will, like tragedy, or they've overcome adversity and they've gone on to find wisdom in that or to do something great. And so I said, well, I'd like to unite some stories in a book. So that kind of birthed the Inspiration Bible as a project. And that spark just kept on growing. So essentially 2014, this is where we opened the project. Obviously, Philippa, this is where we started to get more closely connected, is we started to enroll 365 people from around the world. We ended up having people from 15 different countries. We had 17 under 18-year-olds in the book as well. And United really created a bit of a movement, actually, around the world, really uniting people together to share one page in a book. So that was a 14-month project. I think the actual book project itself was about 9 months until the book actually got released, collating everyone's photos and their stories, and just going through the most amazing journey together and holding that vision at the same time, I think was just exquisite. And then we went into the full gala launch for that, which was February in 2015. So, and that Philippa is obviously where we met for the first time in person, which was just really beautiful. So for me, it was just, I find inspiration everywhere around me every day. And the Inspiration Bible was one of my projects that I wanted to be able to start to capture that inspiration in the form of people's stories, so that other people wouldn't have to search quite so hard for it, so that it could actually just open a book and it would be right there. So very, very much about helping people celebrate the human spirit, which that book absolutely did, just to see what is truly possible when we start to look into the eye of the pain, and we start to then use that as an opportunity to connect with our purpose and to connect with maybe there's a greater message coming through here. Maybe it's not just about me going through some hardship. Maybe there's actually it's trying to lead me to a greater destiny. So I love that the Inspiration Bible celebrated that, and really it celebrated who people are and the incredible spirit that's inside every human being when we decide to be open amidst the pain, as opposed to trying to shut down and rule out life, including ourselves.
And not being shy about it or feeling less than, because just like the Inspiration Bible, this series, it's all about using information that's out there, other people's experiences, to actually inspire other people to get through their own stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And where did the word Bible come from? Because when I first saw it and you were asking for people, I went, yikes, because
I had a few adverse responses to it. What's really beautifully ironic, because I personally was not raised in any kind of strict religion. I didn't even step inside a church till I was 21. I don't have any judgment against Catholic or Christianity or anything. That ultimately, I think there's essentially the same message inside most religions, that there's something greater out there beyond us. And so actually the title didn't really come from my own mind. It came from actually a bit of an answer to a prayer. Funny. And I was trying to come up with a title for this book. What can we title this book that will give it power, that will make people feel like it's a bit of a movement? What can we create this? I need the title for the book needed to be powerful. So I remember standing in the apartment of one of my girlfriend's places down in Melbourne. It was like 43 floors up. I was looking over the city and I was going, I just need a title. And I was kind of running into this. What do we call this thing? And I kind of threw my hands up in the air, and I was being a bit silly, actually. And I said, all right, it's 2 words. Come on, hit me with it. And the words Inspiration Bible popped into my head. And when I Googled the word Bible, it's actually a book of reference. And if you look at the bookshelves, you'll find the yoga Bible, the Mexican food Bible. And so for me, I went, you know what, there's actually this soft edge, if you will, the soft edge around that word that maybe I need to open people up to that a little bit too. So it's quite interesting. It certainly didn't stop us, launching that project. And I think it gave people a sense, even that word. I mean, I spoke to Dee Martini about it, and he just said, I think it's the perfect title, because the word Bible actually does have a lot of power. And yes, it repelled a couple of people, but I really respected the fact that most people just looked straight past that and felt the energy that was in it.
It actually helped me open myself up and put aside the perception of the word Bible. Yes,
absolutely.
When I found out the reference behind it. So, and I know that's true of a few of the other people who contributed to it as well. So
definitely.
I interviewed Sonia Preston a couple of weeks ago, and Adi and Kate Stevens. So, and Adi's just celebrated 5 years since he had the massive stroke. So
he's so inspiring.
Oh, and he's so naughty and funny as well.
That's awesome.
Love him to pieces. So maybe you could take us back to, is there a beginning to your story where you some kind of a pivotal point of reaching a certain level of pain where things change for you?
So there's so many turning points. But the one that always comes to mind when people say, where did it start, was really a moment where I was 19 years old and I really hit rock bottom. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I felt pretty down and out. I was trying to essentially connect with I felt like I wanted to live an amazing life, but I didn't quite know how to do that. And I was trying to connect with a sense of direction, and definitely a sense of like, what is my greater role in the universe? Like, where do I actually fit in this world? So I was very, very much down and out. I'd left university. I'd finished studying NLP, but I didn't have a direction. Like, I didn't really know what to apply it all to. So this was kind of a night in 2007 where I was laying on the floor and just thought, I don't really want my heart to beat again. And then what I realized actually in that time is I got really raw and everything sort of got stripped off me. I realized actually the most important thing was my heart beating, and that was really the point where I decided, I've got so much more in me. And I feel like I have so much more to offer, which is a feeling I come back to all the time, is that there's so much more inside me that can be contributed and can be given. So I just want to keep going. So I made a decision to essentially stay. And that's probably the point at which my trajectory started to emerge. It was definitely actually that point, because from that point on, I then progressed. I had something to focus on. And through periods of not earning a lot of money in the first few years to, days where I just had no idea what I was doing, but I just kept persisting because I had this vision inside my mind. And that's what started to create this momentum in terms of, me then being able to write for people and me being able to then start stepping into my own in the world. So that was definitely, I think, the first turning point. But I was in so much pain, and it was a sense of insignificance, I think, more than anything for me, is that who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? Why am I here? All of that. It's all the questions that most people ask.
I definitely, because I am, in my work, it's like sending out the SOS. It is a sense of significance, really, that we're trying to hone into and find. And so, I guess I know that that's behind the Institute of Inspiration that 9 years later that you've actually created. So
yes,
from your own experiences, therein lies the pain that has turned around for you to give back what you had a need for, and which is what we all do to a certain degree.
Absolutely. Well, the pain is what gets us really present. And when we get really present, we start to, I think, naturally start to think about our life on a bigger level. And it almost brings us out of unconsciousness and out of, or almost through the pain. It's like, it kind of pulls us to go, well, what's your vision? What's it all worth? That's actually a great question to ask, why I'm actually.
We actually constrict in that pain because it is so painful. And it's like, the chaos, because I come from a point of we're energetic beings, so we're all just energy, and so everything is constricted and dense, and we feel heavy and painful and depressed, and I call it dispirited. So when you imagine that you've just had enough and you go through chaos, that's when the change happens and you expand and you lift to a higher vibration, and you you can actually see more beyond it, really, can't
Yes,
you?
it's a quantum leap, and every time you go to, if you call it like a new level of consciousness or a new level of awareness, you naturally see further, and you naturally feel more clearly, and your head becomes clearer, and you get a greater perspective. It's like climbing to the next level of the mountain so that you can see more of the valley.
Yeah. So what's your big vision for the Institute?
Big visions. So in my heart of hearts, I love to inspire people. Been doing it for years, love doing it. Institute is all about expanding that reach, and also while also creating the community at the same time. So in a really big vision, we're talking thousands of people subscribe to and as part of that community from all over the world, from all kinds of backgrounds, solving problems like helping people basically decide on their direction, feel into their heart, connect with their vision. Maybe it is about transcending their pain. We'd love to run live events as well. So I think it can, over time, as it builds in its long-term manifestation, provide quite a beautiful foundation for that. The community is definitely a strong component of that. So people knowing that they're not alone, people knowing that there's somewhere to turn, even just to get a moment of inspiration or to meet somebody extraordinary, that might be the turning point for them. So it's a global network. That's essentially that's what I'm seeing for the Institute is definitely some amazing content, but people being part of something like a unity of people that actually say, hey, I'm choosing to take the extraordinary path in life. I'm choosing to pursue my dream no matter how challenging things might get, but then also supporting people in that process as well. So through inspiring content, through interviewing different trainers across different fields, people who are incredible at what they do and have a lot to share and a lot to offer, but then also again having that community network. So there's different components to this where I think that we can touch the world in a meaningful way by empowering people on that next level of their journey, however long that may be for.
So what market are you aiming it at?
So there's probably naturally, I mean, just because of the people I've already been inspiring, there's going to naturally be a lot of people who are either in a job right now, or they're kind of wanting to transition into being a bit more of an entrepreneur, or they're already in the entrepreneurial space, maybe not doing so well, kind of like that startup entrepreneur, like they're kind of finding themselves. I think that tends to be my dominant space. I tend to attract a lot of women, as people, because I think women, we get it, men get it, but women, I think, are more open, like they're more interested in that real sense of community, receive a lot of value from that too. So definitely women, but I mean, it can be anyone that has a dream, really. It's like and that wants to grow spiritually along that path and work on themselves constantly, and understands the importance of working on their psychology in relation to their dreams, knowing that if they don't do that, then they're gonna slow down over time. They're gonna lose some of that momentum. So these are people who have a dream that they feel can touch the world in some way.
So I was just looking back on your own story. It's like when you were a little crumpled heap on the floor, would you have looked to something that you're creating now? Because there's a gap, isn't there? It's because people don't necessarily know what they don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to help them.
If I was not, I mean, at 19, I was already reading self-development. So this is definitely people who are somewhat open-minded, or who've done a bit of self-development, or even quite a bit of self-development, or personal development, or spiritual studies, or whatever that is. So it's definitely for that. I mean, so at 19, I was already studying that. I'd already done NLP. I was already kind of quite a way down that pathway for maybe 2.5 years. And so the people that would join the Institute would naturally probably be a little bit spiritually minded that way. And that's a beautiful thing, but we're definitely creating something that I would have benefited from. And even at university, when I was barely making a dime, I would have definitely made the money available to be part of something like this. And which is why the subscription ongoing, when we release that component of it, it's going to be like $19 a month. So we're talking like something that's so affordable. Obviously right now we're offering lifetime subscription just during for $233, which is just during the pre-launch phase, but we'll be making it available on such an accessible level that if someone is at age 19, 18, 17, they could still access it. And that's what I'm really caring about, is that people, because when we're struggling in life and having a down moment, we're not always financially flush. And so I want to be able to serve people who are in that space, about helping them ignite that sense of hope and direction and vision, or for then people who are slightly further down that path and just need to want to go to the next level. So it's just sort of making sure that service gets offered and available to the right people at the right time.
That's awesome. Well, because one of my aspirations is actually to have these kind of life skills in schools. So, you know, people don't, it's not till later in life that people start reflecting when, you know, the shit hits the fan and we don't know how to work things out, that we actually start looking into that kind of thing. So, you know, it would be really good to create the awareness, the mindfulness within the schooling years, so that people are more aware, and it is a much easier transition from an education system out to the outside world.
Yeah, or a more empowering one where they actually have resources, or at least the wisdom to say, you know, and maybe wake up an original vision in them that they feel like they can get on their path much sooner. You know, people say that to me, like, you know, you've done so much, you're so young still, because I'm still under 30, and that is really inspiring to me. So it lets me know that other people have the potential to do that too, which is partly why the Institute for Inspiration is giving people to nominate an opportunity to nominate under 20-year-olds for scholarships. So that's actually part of it, is that each month I want to be issuing at least one, but as the numbers grow, we'll do more. One scholarship, so a 5-year scholarship to an under 18-year-old or under 20-year-old, so that they can actually have a bit more of that access, because we may not be able to directly impact the school system yet, and we probably need to build something quite big before we can do that, to say, hey, this actually works. But in the interim, there's no reason that we can't make a difference in the lives of young people who, you know, there's just these bright sparks that, and I see it now, like I'm getting to that point where I'm old enough to see that.
You're so old.
I know, because I'm so old, right? People pick on me for that. But it's true. I'm actually hitting that point where time is speeding up and vanishing really fast. I was like, oh God, we're starting to hit that hill, right? So, oh God.
Yeah, well, with my birthday just around the corner as well, you know, as you get older, you think time is speeding up. But when the likes of your own generation and my children who are in their early 20s sort of thing, they say it is, I mean, you don't feel quite such a crusty, because everybody's feeling the same thing.
Maybe it's also the world, you know. But I think as you start to think bigger, one day seems like you also be more present in your day. But sometimes a day doesn't seem like you have a bigger context. You start thinking in terms of months and years, as opposed to just, you know, a week. Like, I don't really set yearly goals now. I'm setting like eternal goals, and we chip away at those every month and week.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I came across something the other day which really struck me about you, because it's a strength that I'm still working on, which is structure, which is really, really important. You know, when you've got those goals, and they are so big, to be able to chunk them down, and it said to diminish pain is to create structure in your life. How does that fit with you?
It has its role. Yeah. So for me, actually creating too much structure actually was what created pain for me. So I think it really depends on the individual and depends on the context. So I tried to create too much business structure, too much structure on my time, but I'm naturally creative and I'm a touchy-feely. So that won't always work for me. Some people love that. I do have little bits of structure in terms of, all right, so we'll do this today. I need a plan. Like, I need a bit of structure in that sense, because that's what helps me to earth the ideas and to manifest them. Like the Institute for Inspiration, obviously there's structural components within that. But it depends on the context, because structuring my time, planning my time and structuring my time, two different things. So I'm booking in appointments or whatever, that you could call that structure. But I don't necessarily I don't exactly get up at the same time every day. And it took me a while to, you know, as an example of structure, you know, it took me a while to work out that I need to work how I work. I have a natural structure that I follow in terms of how I work and what I do. And I need to honor that, because that's actually where I do my best work. So structure can be kind of limiting, and my life is not as structured as most people probably think, in terms of like my day-to-day can be a little bit, you know, left of field sometimes. Something like the plan can change in the middle of the day. It always ends up, you know, helping me to get the result in the end most of the time. That's the case, but I'm open to that flexibility and flow, because inspiration has its own kind of pathway that it goes on. So I'm not entirely sure, you know. I think it's more of a lack of a plan that creates stress than the lack of a structure, if that makes sense. So if I can go, this is what I'm going to do, and then I can go in and I can then, if I want, structure my time to get that plan done. But it's more the lack of a strategy and not knowing what to do that creates stress for me.
And fitting it into your own rhythm, which is really important, I think, because we are
definitely
all so very, very different. And within that, again, that structure is constraining, which has a lot to do with the conditioning and the shoulds in life. And as you say, you had to make the adjustment and fit it in with your own flow. being self-employed as well. There's still something that goes on in the back of your head that does the 9 to 5 thingy, you know.
Oh yeah, getting up at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning after I've been up until 1 o'clock at night working, by the way.
Yes.
That's still challenging for me, and I'm talking like 9 years of it. I still haven't quite managed to shake that. I'm not quite sure what that is. So it's just, you know, and I just tried to move past it. And if I have a structure and a plan, the thing is I need to go to bed at night knowing, have I done everything that I possibly could today in order to take my vision forwards? If it was time to work on the vision, did I do it? You know, did I actually follow what my higher guidance said, this is the best thing that you need to do next? Did I do it? If I didn't do it, then I'm going to have a lot of guilt about sleeping in past 7 o'clock in the morning, you know? So it's just about, for me, it's about making sure my days are productive, and then that kind of calms that sensation down. But I know the one you're talking about, because I do experience it quite frequently.
Yeah, me too, because I'm a night owl as well. And so, yeah, my partner gets up at sparrow fart sort of thing. It's just like, you know, where do I fit in here? All those shits and things. So do you find working, being an entrepreneur on your own, do you find that lonely, and how do you deal with it?
Lonely is maybe not the word. Disconnected sometimes, yes.
Right.
I'm particularly within the last year, I experienced quite a lot of that. But I also probably need a little bit of a time out after doing the Inspiration Bible, and so I got to spend a lot more time probably with myself, which was useful. But I also experienced quite a bit of isolation in that, and sort of at times, and forgot how powerful that connection and that community is. And this is totally why the Institute exists, for that community sense, right? To make sure that doesn't happen. So how I would combat that is go out and network, and just even a couple of times a fortnight, go out, go meet people, talk to people. Remember that you're real, you are flesh and bones, you know, you're a human being. You know, being in a relationship obviously helps with that process too. But getting out and being in amongst people and talking to people, that for me is just the best way to do it as you go. And also talking to the market to work out, it helps you clarify your business. So, you know, because then you see what people respond to, and if something's not clear, the marketplace will respond with ambiguity. Or if you know something needs to be kind of taken to that next level, you just go, okay, cool. Well, obviously we need to tweak it, but we need to find out where it's not fitting. So sometimes talking to people, they'll go, oh, why don't you just do this? Because some of my greatest ideas didn't even come from me. They came from someone else saying something, and me going, yeah, we should definitely do that. Occasionally it comes through me. So I think just really making sure we connect with people and have that support system along the way. Mentors are a really great source of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's the collaboration, I think, and moving away from that. I have to do everything. We were talking before we went on air about that syndrome. I have to do everything, and actually saying, you know, I have my strengths, and calling on people and getting those flashes of inspiration, having those conversations and things to help us grow it as well.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I mean, they're so essential. I mean, one of the things that, like with the Institute for Inspiration, we're starting to run dream building sessions. So dream building sessions are an opportunity for people to log on and we connect. And it's sort of like a bit of coaching and inspiration. And so we're going to be creating this as well. It's definitely an implicit part of the Institute is to create that sense of connection. And so that less entrepreneurs are kind of drowning in the shadows, if you will. And, you know, having people not feel so alone. And sometimes it's just that one little thing. You just need that little spark of energy, and you go, I know what to do. But I think that's actually part of the problem is entrepreneurs don't succeed when they stop connecting. That's just the way it is. You know why? Because your marketplace is people. And I think, you know, we can become, when we come to isolate and we sit there and go, I'll do this strategy. I'm like, yeah, but are you talking to people every day? Because that's where the clients are. That's where the service is. That's where the money is. That's where everything is. That's where the flow is with the people. Now, given
life is about relationships, isn't it? Being able to relate to people, and
if you're not, you know, if you don't love connecting with people naturally, and you don't really enjoy that, then you need to be in a different. Probably need to either be part of someone else's business, or you need to have someone doing that, because that's what's going to make the business succeed. So if you're not natural in that area, then you need to be part of a business where it's natural for someone else to do it. Otherwise, you just, you know, it's not going to work. Because the entrepreneur today, I mean, I don't even really like that term, but, you know, it's just someone who's innovative with a business, essentially, and innovative with the way they earn money. You know, I think that being a little, not extroverted necessarily, but being connected that way, I think is really essential. You know, having that enjoyment in that communication with people and wanting to share and connect, I think is an absolute imperative today in order to succeed in terms of what a lot of people that I speak to want to do.
Is confidence in your own what is fulfilling to you, and confident that and not being put off by the outside world that, you know, that says, oh, somebody is better. You're all that competition and looking at how somebody else is doing and then feeling insignificant again. It's that, how do you stay on top of that? Is it the same thing, the connection?
So first of all, I do that from time to time.
Yeah.
I hear quite often from my marketer, Jamie, he often says, keep your head down. So in other words, you can't focus too much on what all of the outside world is doing, because there's a lot of noise and you'll be looking at a saturated market. And just because someone is doing something on Facebook doesn't mean it's working. And just because they've said that they've got this gig doesn't mean they're getting paid. So it's like, hang on, we need to really, I think questioning is part of it, but also the most important thing you can do is work on your own vision. And if you have doubts about it, about whether it can work, then it needs some love and you need to work on it some more, and go inward and really know with certainty, this is what I want to bring, and be inspired. I mean, the Inspiration Bible, during that whole manifestation of that project, I didn't even look at other contributor books because it was irrelevant. And it was like, because I was so certain and so clear. My concept was so simple. I didn't have an issue enrolling people in it because I was so clear about it. So it's just, once I had that certainty and that inspiration inside myself, the marketplace just stepped aside. I was like, if you don't want to be part of it, you don't want to be part of it, end of story. And just move on, basically. So that's so important. And I don't think very many people have confidence in what they want to do and what they want to offer, mostly because it's not clear enough yet. So people they're pitching to be a life coach, but there's no specificity in what they're doing. Like, but what do you actually work with? So for me personally, I love to help people with their vision. I think that's totally inspiring, and connecting with a sense of destiny, and inspiring them along the way. That's predominantly where I'm at, which is slightly different from some other coaches who want to work with trauma. So it's like, really need to get in very specific, I think, on what it is that we do. Otherwise, because our niche, our true niche, and the way that our point of difference that makes us stand out is in our individuality and the specificity around who we are and what it is that we do. And so many people just have no idea what that is, so they're shoving themselves in a box, and that box, you'll be forever part of a saturated market if you don't start to break out. And the way to do that is to be individual and to do something that is a cut above and way different. So, you know, I think for me, I keep working on what's really inside my heart. And if I feel that I'm playing in the realm of, you know, a saturated market, then it's time for me to step back and go, hang on, like, this is play at a bigger level, and really push myself. So there is a point of difference where I go, this is what it's about. And then, you know, this whole sense of, if you will, confidence kind of comes back, and it comes back tenfold.
Absolutely.
And you know once you have it, because you feel it.
Yes, definitely. And you're vibrating it, and I just go back to the energy, you're vibrating it within your true essence, because you're just filled up, you're fulfilled with, and your value is really come to the surface, and it's shining out, and there's just absolutely no doubt whatsoever. So what are your top, do you have a top 3 or 5 values that you live by?
So some people consider values to be things like integrity, honesty, etc. That's not really how I know values to be. Okay. My values, one of those is definitely writing. You'll see that in what I do. My vocation is very important to me. I definitely have social connection in my values as well. Do have a value on creating wealth and wealth building, mostly through all of the above. Love to speak as well, and, you know, love to be, obviously there's, you know, a relationship in there too. Like to shop, but these are the things that are important to me. Pardon?
It's the communicator in you, isn't it, really? Yeah,
pretty much. Is it the connection and social connection and connection relationships is very important. So that for me, values are a bit more tangible than what most people would know them to be. And these are the things that I work on a daily basis in one of many ways. And spirituality is obviously important to me too.
So how do you define spirituality?
For me personally, that's about me working on my connection with, if you will, the divine. So whenever I go through periods where I'm not doing my quote unquote spiritual practices, I find that my life doesn't flourish as much. So this is one of the ways that I personally rise up. So for me, spirituality is a practice of looking at the truth in things. It is a practice of getting inspired by the world around me. It's a practice of staying connected to my vision. So every time I'm working on my vision for the world and my vocation, that is actually my spirituality for me. They feel very synonymous. You know, being in a space where I can write, that's also very much a spiritual practice for me. So it is essentially looking at sometimes the psychology, like, during that time, it was like I was punishing myself. God, but why? And then kind of having an inward kind of exploration as to, what was the trigger point that created that. So there's a huge element of psychology in that, but there's also a massive element of, how was that a blessing? How can we use this to our advantage? What is the greater truth in this? What am I being shown? It's a whole combination. It's a big world for me. I mean, it pretty much is my world. It's what I do. It's what I love to help people do. It's kind of zoom out on a regular basis and see the greater order inside of things. I use the DeMartini method to do this. I use just spiritual reflection and principles. Sometimes coaching clients can trigger that for me too. So yeah, it's a combination of all of the above.
Excellent. So is there any other practices that you do on a regular basis that fulfill this for you?
Yeah, definitely. So some of my practices I actually noticed because my laptop went on the fritz. Actually, what happened was I spilled tea on it. So my new one just arrived this morning. It's very exciting. Yay! So I can kind of get my life back on track, which would be lovely. So but prior to that, I would count blessings quite frequently. So basically writing down, thank you for this, thank you for that, kind of like a little thank you prayer. That is a very powerful exercise. I find that stills the mind and automatically inspires me to act, because there's a point, because what it does is it makes the mind present. And I think part of the reason that people get stuck and stagnant in life is they don't actually know what to do next. And then a lot of the times they're acting out of desperation instead of inspired action. So what I find is every single time I'm counting blessings, I come to this space where I have a new insight, a new idea, or a new action come to me. And those are the ones that actually create the results. So that gratitude practice is really important. As I said, definitely the DeMartini method. I'm currently on working with a buddy of mine in the UK. He's a close friend of mine, and we're applying the DeMartini method on a fortnightly basis right now. We're working every 2 weeks. We get a part of a project done. So we're working towards the end of the year. So that's quite a strong practice for me at times. But yeah, the gratitude, sometimes I pull an oracle card out and go, what's the message for today? And then I do my best to integrate that into my life and pull out whatever's going on, like what is actually going on, and how can I pull that, how can I extract something of value in that for me? And sometimes it's thanking the people that have made a contribution and expressing that gratitude. So there's many things, but listening to music, that's one of the things with my laptop, is that a lot of my documents on it. Luckily I have a lot of them, so I was blessed about that. But I haven't been listening to music as much, and I realized actually that's a really important spiritual practice for me, that it inspires me. And I haven't been doing that for like barely 2 weeks, so I was like, oh, we need to change this, because that actually helps me to flow through my feelings, to flow through my ideas, and to get inspired on a regular basis.
Yeah, sound as one of the 5 senses. We really need to fill the senses up, and because that's how we receive all the information. So and the environment around us is so important, isn't it?
Definitely. I have just getting new vision boards done right now, and having a designer kind of create vision boards that I'll put into a little book that I can travel with, so it's like little practices like that. I have inspiring quotes on my wall and things that remind me of my vision.
Lovely. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, I asked that question yesterday. And I think actually the advice that when someone asked me that yesterday, the advice I gave, which I think actually is still very true to me today, is essentially that I would have just encouraged her to be as bright as possible. So to not listen quite so much to the voices on the outside and the opinions of other people, or even the judgments of other people, but just to boldly pursue the path inside her heart. That it's hands down would be the number one thing I would want to say.
To be quiet with yourself. And would you, and what you were talking earlier about the subliminal noise around us and outside. So it's about going in. And I really noticed that going down to the Antarctic and coming back to reality, and how all that noise was so distracting, and being without my computer for 5 weeks as well, that was hard.
Yeah, I bet. But I've had a bit of a taste of that in the last week or so. It's like I'm on one leg on one continent, one on the other. It's like I'd still had a computer, so.
It's finding that balance, isn't it? Being quiet with yourself and being happy with yourself, but also not totally disconnecting and reaching out. And it's okay to have the wobbles, to not know, because we all do it at whatever age and stage we are in life, and we can look to other people for the inspiration and say, oh, I know somebody who's done that, and hence the book and the whole institute. It's beautiful the way that you've actually molded it all together, and brought it all back to your core message. So thank you so much for your time today, Emily. It's been an absolute blessing. And may the force be with you.
I love that. May the force of inspiration guide your life.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.